Hi everyone, you're welcome back to my channel. My name is Becky Secretary. I hope you're doing well. If today is the first time you've come across my video, please remember to like, subscribe and share. So in today's video we are going to be talking about your right as a tenant in the UK. We've all come from different countries and there are different laws, and it's important for you to know what your rights are and some of your responsibilities when you rent a house in the UK. So if you want to know more about this, why not watch the video to the end. So welcome back to the main video. So we're going to be looking at what your rights are as a tenant who is renting in the UK. So first of all, as a tenant, you have the right to live in a safe property. So make sure the property you're living in is safe. You have the right to your deposit being returned to you at the end of your tenancy agreement. I was told by a friend a while ago, when they were about to move, the tenant, the landlord or the agent came, inspected and said, oh, this paint is a bit like this, there's a stain here and there, so we're going to take your deposit in order to, you have to be careful. Those things can be a bit dodgy. Anyway, you have the right in some cases to have your deposits protected. Another right you have is to challenge excessive high charges. Some landlords or agents charge very excessively. Another one is you have the right to know who your landlord is. Some people are living in a rented places and they even don't know who their landlord is. Yes, some landlords use agents, so you will never get to see the landlord themselves. But if you wish to know who your landlord is, you have every right to ask. You also have the right to live in a property undisturbed. So some people, you rent a house from them and they are giving you hell problems. You shouldn't be disturbed. It is your right to live in a property undisturbed. You also have the right to see an energy performance certificate for the property, because sometimes if the performance is not great, you end up using a lot of or paying for a lot of energy and the rest. So you have the right to find out what the energy performance certificate looks like. You have the right to be protected, one, from unfair eviction and unfair rent as well. You also have the right to have a written agreement if you have a fixed term tenancy of more than 3 years. You normally have a written agreement with your landlord as well. If you have a tenancy agreement, it should actually be fair and it should comply with the UK law. If you do not know your landlord, you can actually ask the agent in writing, and they're supposed to let you know who your landlord is within 21 days. Now let's talk about your responsibility. You have rights and you do have responsibility as well as a tenant in somebody's house in the UK. You also are responsible to give your landlord access to the property, to inspect it or carry out repairs, but the landlord needs to give you at least 24 hours notice to visit your property, and they're supposed to visit at a reasonable time, not at midnight. Another one, you must also take a good care of the property. So if you're living in somebody's house, you're renting, it doesn't mean you say, oh, it's not for me, so I don't really care. No, you need to take good care of the property you're renting as a tenant. You also have responsibility to pay the agreed rent. You have the responsibility to pay other charges, for example, council tax and the lot. If you are living in a rented house, for example, if like you're not in a shared accommodation, because most shared accommodations normally you pay everything, it's inclusive. You also have the responsibility to repair any damage caused by you or your family. You only sublet a place you're renting if this has been agreed by the landlord or it is in your tenancy agreement. Your landlord's safety responsibilities as well now. So we're going to be talking about the safety responsibility of your landlord in the UK. They are required to make sure the gas in the house is safe. So gas safety, the landlord has to make sure that an annual gas safety check is done and give you a copy of the safety certificate before you move into the house. It's the same as electricity as well, just making sure every electricals in the house or the electricity in the house is safe. They have to check for fire safety as well. That is very important. And if you use any, and they should make sure there's a smoke alarm. Let's look at repairs as well. So what your landlords must do, the landlord is responsible for repairs to the property, especially the structure and then the exterior, and then the basins, the sinks, the baths and other sanitary fittings in the house, including the pipes, drains, heating, hot water, gas appliance, pipes, ventilation and electrical wiring. Any damage they cause by attempting to repair as well, they have to repair that and check. You need to check your tenancy agreement to make sure all those things are included. And your responsibility again, you must only carry out repairs if the tenancy agreement says you can do that. So once again, you cannot be forced to do repairs that are your landlord's responsibility. Some landlords would force you to do things you shouldn't be. If you're concerned, you need to find the right people to report these to. If your property needs repairs or has mold as well, you need to contact your landlord. If you think your property needs repairs or has mold, your landlord should tell you when you can expect the repairs to be done as well. So it is not your responsibility if there is mold in the property. If the repairs are not done, you have to contact the environmental health department at your local council for help. They must take action if they think the problem could harm you, because these molds and things can actually cause respiratory problems to people. If you think your home is not safe as well, contact the housing department in your local council. So most councils in the UK do have housing departments. So if you're having issues with the property, first of all, try and see if your landlord can reason with you. If not, then you have to speak to the council about it, be it a private or council related place. Rent increase. Let's talk about rent increase as well. For those who pay weekly or monthly, your rent cannot be increased more than once in a year. But those on fixed term, your landlord has to discuss this with you and you have to agree to that. Otherwise, they can only increase at the end of your agreement when you're due to renew. But, you know, let's carry on. You have to check your tenancy agreement about what they have put in there regarding rent increases. You can also apply to the tribunal to decide certain rent-related disputes as well. Your landlord can evict you if you are in rent arrears. So if you rent a house in the UK, make sure you're paying your bills accordingly, because if you find yourself in rent arrears, you can't be evicted either by themselves or by the agreement or through the courts as well. If you're having issues and you can't afford your rent, you need to seek advice from Shelter or Citizens Advice Bureau as well. Now let's talk about people living in houses in multiple occupation. So those are houses, especially in London and other places, where more than 3 different people live in one house. I remember at some point when I was in London before I moved out, I shared a place with a lady, and we were living in a house where there's a family, there's another guy, and so each person is in a different room, but we all shared the same kitchen, same bathroom. It's not the best, but oh well, that is about 20 years ago. I was happy I moved out of London because I couldn't live that kind of house, because like a fridge, you are not allowed to put certain things like certain types of meat in the fridge. You cannot cook this. There are a lot of restrictions. I actually spoke to a lady recently who was telling me that she was living in a place, actually the landlady was an African as well, and this lady is an African or a Caribbean. And she said to me, the landlady said, oh, some people, they tell them you can only bath once, you shouldn't be bathing twice a day. And this person is a health professional. You go into work, you want to have shower, you come back, you want to have a shower. And she was being prevented, or she was told you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't bring friends. I think that would be a completely different topic one day I'll talk about. So the difficulties in living in multiple occupancy sort of houses, not the best. So those are places you share toilet, you share bathroom, you share kitchen with some people, and they don't even have a lounge that you can, go and sit down with friends. Some of them, they even ask you not to bring your own friends to the house. If you're having issues in that kind of house, or the standards in that kind of house, you need to contact your local council or report any hazards in the house as well. Issues around antisocial behavior, which is common in some places in the UK, you also can complain as well. So hopefully, I think most of the things you need to know about your rights and the rights of your landlord, your right as a tenant and the rights of a landlord, would be found in your tenancy agreement, what you can and what you cannot do. But if you're concerned about anything, just remember you can report anything to your local council. First of all, you have to try and sort things out with the agent or with the landlord, but if they are not reasoning with you, then you can go through the local council. You can actually speak to your councillor, you can speak to your local MP. I hope this has been helpful. If there's anything else you're not too sure about, feel free to ask, and I would reply to that in a comment section. Take care of yourselves, have a good day, and I'll see you again later. Bye bye.